right today. I looked at it this morning. I think Georgia, where you live, might be the highest ever at like
Yeah,
35 or 38.
and the county I live in Gwinnett County. That's as far as last week, it had the most cases of any county in Georgia, and I haven't seen that change. I went in for a test 2 weeks ago on Saturday, and it said a 2-day turnaround. I should get my results. A week, like 8 days later, I finally got the results negative. It came back negative, but they were just swamped with tests coming in because they see those numbers. Everybody needs to go get a test. Somebody's feeling a little sick. Somebody's got a little cough. Somebody's got a little fatigue. They go and get the test, and that's what's been going on.
Well, you went to Florida for a couple of days, and you came back and you were kind of sniffling and stuff, so you got the test. Right. But I've been seeing a lot on news that people are waiting in line now for hours and hours to get tested. And I know you, another guy that's close to me in my area here, just went to CVS, was in and out in about a half hour. 2 days later, got the results. So fairly simple. I thought we were over that.
For me, it was simple actually taking the test. That was well run. I mean, they have appointments you make online, and I'd say every 15 minutes is how they worked out. So there was no line when I got there, and I should say there was like one car in front of me, but I was basically, by the time I pulled up to the window, it was my time slot, and there were maybe 2 cars behind me when I left. But yeah, getting the results, and they don't give you a number or you have an email that you could probably question in on, but they just didn't, give me any reason why they were taking so long. But it makes sense. I mean, everybody's getting tested. It's not CVS. They submit it to like LabCorp or
LabCorp and Quest. LabCorp and
yeah.
Quest. They're saying they're both the 2 number 1 labs, and those are the ones that are getting overloaded. How simple was the test? Was it invasive, where they're really sticking a thing up your nose, or was it cheek swab?
You do it yourself. It comes through a slot. They give you a plastic bag, stuff inside. The guy will speak to you. You rip open the plastic bag, and there is a swab. It's not like a comfortable little cotton swab like a Q-tip. It's more like a dental instrument with like bristles on it, and you got to put it pretty much as far up your nose as you can. It just gave me the urge to sneeze. So yeah, I tried to hold it back because you don't want to be sneezing in front of other people. A guy giving you the test is just kind of embarrassing. But so you went up there. You had to hold it up there for 10 seconds, swirl it around, take it out, put it up the other nostril, do the same thing, put it in the bag, and throw it back in like when you go to the bank. You got to put it back in the compartment, and they send it off to the lab.
I wonder if you were working now, you probably would have been quarantined until you got that result back, right?
Interesting. Very interesting you bring that up. And I want to say there's somebody that I know who one of the restaurants closed up because somebody tested for positive that works there. And I think they only closed down for like a day or 2. But they were trying to figure out scheduling and stuff this week. And somebody had chimed in, hey, listen, I work in an office. Somebody tested positive in the office. So, it's recommended I quarantine for such and such days. But there's not necessarily, a corporate, mandate on what to do with this. There's not necessarily a government mandate. It's kind of out in the, up in the air what people do about this. And to me, that's part of the problem.
I have seen hey, good morning, Peggy. How are you? Thanks for listening. I have seen a few people post on waiter sites or server sites on Facebook saying that somebody got sick or somebody tested positive in their restaurant, and they weren't told for 3, 4, 5 days later because management was just trying to cover the shifts. Obviously, it's crazy, right? Every day is like a brand new opening.
Kara.
But they were saying that, they were mad as hell because they thought that they were being put in danger. They're going home to their kids or their family or whatever, and makes a good point. Um, you're in Georgia. Georgia had its biggest day so far. Let's see. In Chicago. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Capital Grill server. Capital Grill's big here in Philadelphia.
Got a buddy of mine that works there too, down in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Are you open in Chicago? Are you open indoors in Chicago? We are not in New Jersey. Josh is in indoor dining's allowed in Georgia. Yes, Josh?
Oh yeah, it is.
It's just that your restaurant never decided to open. What's up, Gar?
Hey, Gary.
Which is crazy because it's like you're open, but you're not allowed to go back to work.
Right.
You're open at 25% indoors. New Jersey was going to start that last week, maybe the 2nd of July, and then they pulled back, and now we're doing outdoor dining. Serving steaks outside is not fun. I have not been called back to work, but I talked to a lot of people, and it just seems to be a mess. It doesn't seem like we're moving forward for.
How were the numbers this weekend over there at Ocean Resort?
From what I hear, a lot of people are doing different jobs than they normally do. So if you were our server, then for the weekend you were a takeout person. You know, you would take an order, punch it in, and then we will be closed up again soon. Numbers are going.
I could not agree with you more, Sarah. I believe that all the restaurants can be closed up soon.
Maybe. I mean, it's so crazy because it turns into a political thing, right? If you close again, then the government failed us.
They're not going to have choices. You know, again, how can you have restaurants open? First of all, the demand itself won't be there soon. You know, I've said this from the outset. When you have, you know, hospitals that can't take in sick people, and you have people, you know, lining up outside and having tents to wait for a hospital bed, nobody's thinking about going out to eat. And we're going to hit those numbers. It's inevitable. So
I think you're right.
I don't think demand will be there. And then how can you be mayor of a city or governor of a state and you see this going on and you don't take that vital step and just saying, look, I hate to do it. We're going to need to quarantine. That's why I hate to say it, but I don't think kids will be going back to school, or they'll be delayed. You know, there'll be some sort of you know, digital learning.
It does seem to me that all politicians, from Trump to mayors to governors, are all putting the blame on the guy underneath them. Federal government says it's up to the states. A state like Pennsylvania, it's up to the counties, individual counties. So Pittsburgh is open, but Philadelphia is closed.
Right.
Miami or Florida, Miami-Dade just closed indoor dining, but the rest of the state, you can have it. So everybody wants to say, you know what, it's up to them. It's their, you know, it's a big country, it's a big state, you know, let the local government take care of it. It seems like nobody, you know, come election time, nobody wants to say, you were the one that closed us, or you were the one that exposed us to the disease.
There are no good decisions to make, and that's why. So there are only hard decisions to make. Who wants to be, you know, held responsible for that? I guess I can understand it. It's weak. I think it's incredibly weak. You know, we've had leaders in the past that would make hard decisions in unpleasant times, but nobody seems to be stepping up and wanting to do that. And like I said, it's understandable. That's kind of human nature, but that's not why we want those kinds of people in office. But, you know, I don't want to get political on that. I just think that this is what's going to happen. And we're scared because, you know, every week that we do this, Mike, we come closer to that time where it's like, we're going to not have this $600 a week coming in. It's getting more and more real because it's like, what are you going to do? You know, I don't know about. Yes, exactly.
I have some thoughts about that. We'll go into that. You were talking about the leaders making the decisions, and I know Trump is against the masks, or at least it seems that Trump is against masks. And if you wear a mask, it's kind of against your rights, and it's also kind of against Trump for whatever reason. And you know, he's the leader of our country, so if he doesn't wear a mask because he thinks he looks more powerful and he thinks that he represents our country better, the guy gets tested probably 5 times a day. I'm okay with him not wearing a mask. I don't think he has to wear a mask, but he should say it. if he says, listen, I'm the president, you know, I have to talk with people. I'm very well protected. For your protection, you should wear a mask.
He doubles down on whatever he does, good or bad, you know, and whether it's working or not, he just keeps doubling down. That's just how he plays life. I've heard he was like that, you know, before he was ever a politician. So that's what he does. You know, speaking of masks, it's funny. After last week's show, I had a buddy of mine get in touch with me. Haven't heard from him or spoken to him in 15 years. And let me get to what he said here. Interesting. Okay. How are we safe wearing masks in inside dining with guests that aren't wearing them? I haven't seen any politicians talk about this conundrum. It seems like in most states, everyone's got to wear masks indoors except in restaurant industry. We should get hazard pay. Interesting. You know, let's talk about masks, because there's a couple different kinds. 90% of the masks we're seeing out there, they're just like, you know, cloth masks, homemade masks, something you buy online. They're not the N1 masks. And so I guess how a mask works is basically you're covering your face like this. And if you sneeze just in regular speaking, coughing, 90% of what would get out into the atmosphere is
Right.
blocked, and it's held in the mask. A little bit will come out the outside, but you know, that, let's just say it's 90% less than what would be out there. But when you're breathing in, it's not blocking anything. It's not like you're getting, everything's going to be coming from the side. So anything in the atmosphere, it's already in the atmosphere. So what you're doing is preventing droplets from being in the atmosphere.
Right.
But by wearing one, you're not helping yourself. You're only helping other people.
Exactly.
And I don't think people understand that. Even Trump, with what he's doing, he's acting like he's a strong man. You know, it's powerful. I'm out there and I'm not wearing a mask because I don't care if I get sick, because for whatever reason. And that's not the purpose for the mask in the first place. It's not to keep yourself healthy. It's to keep other people healthy.
You wear a mask and that helps me. I wear a mask and that helps you. And the mask, me wearing a mask when nobody else is wearing a mask, I'm not protected. I'm just protecting everybody else.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Let's see. Hey, Jordan. I'm a gig contract worker for festivals, events. Unfortunately, there is really no opening, closing in the industry. However, many of my friends in the restaurant industry here in Texas, well, thanks for coming in from Texas, are expressing that they wish they would just have to keep logos only.
To-goes only, yeah. That I mean, yeah, I absolutely understand that, Jordana.
Can you make money with to-goes? I mean, I know everybody says, hey, they're open. Go back to work. We'll put you to work. You have a job. Well, I can tell you this right here. People that I worked with over the weekend, servers that are making $150 to $250 on a Saturday, and maybe more, but let's just say that number. They did to-goes. They walked out with $20 when minimum wage. You can't sustain yourself on that either. You know, it's probably better for the business, Josh. Obviously, if the business can just run and break even, pay their rent, they can get through this. For a waiter, especially if you have 20 waiters on staff, what are you bringing in to-goes? Maybe a guy to punch in the order on the computer, maybe two other ones to grab some drinks and some, you know, ketchup on the side or whatever condiments go along with it. But I can't make it as a to-go server. You can't make it as a to-go server. You know, that doesn't help you. If your restaurant says, hey, guys, we're doing to-go. Josh, we'd like to come in for 7 hours and wear a mask and do to-go orders. We'll give you minimum wage.
Right. Yeah, that's not.
They disguise minimum wage. I really hate the thing that they call living wage. We pay our workers a living wage. No, a living wage to me means you are paying the least amount possible by law, which is minimum wage. And living wage is not a living wage. Living wage in America is about $75,000 a year, right? You can get by, you can pay rent, maybe go out to dinner on your anniversary. You need about $75,000 a year. Anything under that, you struggle every single day.
It's tough. Right, exactly.
And $75,000 a year used to be a very good income, but it's just, you know, mortgages are $2,200, $2,800, $1,800. I mean, you know, you got to make $2,000 a week just to pay a mortgage these days.
Right.
Let's see. Steve's from Pittsburgh. I waited on Trump and Carmine's at the Trop in 2005. He was actually a nice guy. Hey,
I absolutely believe he is. He
I
seems like a
believe
fun guy, the kind of guy you'd absolutely want to hang out with.
obviously very charismatic. Obviously, a lot of people
Sure.
follow him. Obviously, he knows how to work people and interact and have a good conversation. And my political beliefs, it doesn't matter who I'm going to vote for, but I'm just saying that the leaders should all say wear a mask. And I'm okay with our president, and his wife, if she wants to buy a $10,000 gown, I'm okay with that. They're the leader of our country. They have to look, they have to travel, they can't live in poverty, right? So if he doesn't want to wear a mask, he's in a bubble. And I think like, okay, he doesn't have to wear a mask. To me, it'd get all the makeup on it too, right? Like every time he took it off, it'd be all orange and there'd be marks on his face.
Get him
But
an
anyway,
orange mask. He'll be fine.
what if he said, hey, listen, guys, this is going to help us out. This is going to help our country. We'll be back up and going in no time at all. Everybody wear a mask inside, outside, dining. And, he's the leader. When he gets up in front of the podium, everybody listens. And whether you agree with him or not, he is the president, and people will respond to what he says. Good or bad.
We have not had a cohesive response to anything. We can't agree on any kind of information coming in about the virus, and it's hence why we're, why we're in the predicament we're in.
Hey, Joey,
yeah. What's he saying?
Joey, are you making any tips? Are people like generous and they know right now you're doing to go, so they throw you 20 or they're helping out and you can make some money? Josette Bury, it's in the Orange District in Atlantic City, like right next to Tennessee Avenue. It's a new kind of like, I haven't been there, so I don't want to describe it, but it's a new kind of like hipster bar. They have some bands, they have comedians up. It's a good feel. We are doing okay. Well, doing okay is all you can expect to do these days, right? So that's good. You're not depending on other people. You're not depending on the $600. You're saying, I'm back to work. I'm doing okay. Joey's a great carpenter on the side too. I don't know if he stays in business right now, but he does.
Everybody I know that's doing that kind of work is flooded
because people have time.
I guess, yeah. And it could also be, for a lot of people that haven't stopped working, and there are a lot of people out there that got some stimulus. I mean, now you got an extra, you have a family, you got an extra $3,500 in your bank account. You're doing those side jobs and stuff like that.
Good to hear, Joey.
Yeah.
The $600, what I posted up is extra is running out, and that makes me feel desperate. It makes me feel like really, in a panic almost at times during the day. When 9 o'clock at night after my day is done and the dishes are clean, and you're like, I don't have to set the alarm again tomorrow. It's not up to me to go back to work. I don't know where my income is coming in the next month. You told me that, and it's on the news, Georgia just deployed Federal Reserves. I mean, not the Federal Reserve,
the National
Guard to Georgia, and not for COVID, but because of the crime increase. And you have seen
it's been like apparently a violent crime. This is, mostly in Atlanta. Violent, like shooting, a lot of shootings, and I'm not sure if it seems more than normal, but it's certainly more observable than normal. And people are getting scared about that too. And, there's a lot of tension in this country. There's economic tension, there's racial tensions. And then on top of that, a lot of people don't have work to go to.
Yeah, when you put financial, health, and racial tensions together, it's the perfect storm. And not only in Georgia, but there has been a lot of crime, multiple killings way above average across the country. And I think that's a direct result in the confusion, the desperation, what's coming tomorrow. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to lose my job? Sarah says,
let's talk about Sarah here, because this is, we've all talked about this. Mike, you and I talk about this a lot, and Sarah, just looking at her picture, she looks a little younger than us, so it might be easier for her to
25 years in the business.
Yeah.
So she, I got her obviously by a few years, but
yeah. I think that too. I talk about that with my wife all the time. Hey, maybe it's time to, go to Kroger or Costco, see if I can get into management and, maybe in a couple of years, move up into executive position there. I'm not sure. There's one thing that we do have, I think, the skill set that we've learned in our industry from being in it as long as we have, people skills that I think a lot of people that have come out of college, let's say in the last 10 to 15 years, don't have. And I think that might give us an advantage into getting into certain, any kind of customer service industry. I think we'd have an advantage there.
For sure, just being able to talk on the phone. A lot of young kids are conditioned to texting and emailing,
right?
Instead of talking on the phone. So just basic. I always call us communicators. We're great communicators, right? So we have that. It's very scary to do something and work at a career. And I was looking up careers yesterday, like the top professions in the country: engineers, dental assistants, and not the lawyers and doctors, but IT programmers, coders. If you stopped that for them, if you shut down their industry 100%, where they can't get a job in their industry, what did they do? You know what they do?
Right.
They become waiters like us,
Right?
right? They'd be on the floor next to us, and guys like you and me would eat their lunch every single day. Right. I mean, that's what it is.
Most
of the people that listen to me are hardcore animals on the dining room floor. I know, we know all of them. Right. And some IT guy that comes in is like, hey, I lost my job and I'd like to be a waiter.
Thinking that what we do will be easy.
Right. But that's us going to IT. I can just about work Facebook. I'm good with emails, but I'm not.
I mean, what's the next most natural industry for us is sales of any kind, correct?
I know. Yesterday I had Kobe Fryer on, and he is a manager for Matt Black. He's a car salesman. So he actually looks for, whenever they're looking for salesmen, he always posts, hey, if you're in the industry, our industry, if you're a DJ, if you're working in nightlife, if you're a waiter, a maitre d', I'd love to talk to you about a sales opportunity. And I asked him about it yesterday, and he said, well, your people skills or our people skills in our industry are unmatched. We have the rebuttal, right? We can deal with difficult people.
You're good at reading people. Yeah, absolutely.
Good at reading people. So it does go into sales. The problem is, by now, if you don't have reserves and you become a real estate agent or a car salesman or an insurance salesman, sales usually takes a month or two.
I was going to say like 18 months before. Like if you go into real estate, I mean, you got to build up that kind of rapport. And just like we would eat somebody alive, if they came into our place, they're going to eat you alive. You're taking food out of their kid's mouth. They're not going to be happy about that.
Hey, Pat, how are you? Pat, did you send it to Mike Fagan? I don't. Let me see. I do have that. I have it up on my phone. Pat sent a message in, so let me just see if I have it. I don't think I do because my phone shut off. Send it to Michael Fagan on the Facebook, Pat. How are you this morning? Good to hear from you. Pat's a shop sort in Atlantic City. No benefits, no justice, right, Pat? I'm with you, man. Murphy made an announcement today: retractable roof or doors that open to outside, you can go to 50%.
Does that mean you have to keep the doors open, I presume?
You got to keep it. Well, they want the air blowing through. So if you have a big awning, maybe, or if you're, like a beer garden type of thing where you're on the boardwalk, where you're
right.
I don't know. I guess if you have a lot of exposed, I also think Murphy mandated today, Governor Murphy of New Jersey mandated today. Yes. Also mandated you have to wear a mask outside, and that gets everybody in an uproar. New Jersey. There we go. Masks outside. Pat kind of, we lost our train of thought there just for a minute. About switching careers that Sarah was saying, going into sales. I know. I think about it every day. I think about my network every day. I think about who do I know every day. I know a couple guys are doing solders on the roof, and they're knocking on doors, literally knocking on doors saying, do you want to get some solar panels? Solar panels.
Are they selling it or actually doing the install?
No, they're the guys that are out selling. And then they have a crew that comes in to install. I'll tell you what, I'd like a job to install, man. Put a tool belt on. I don't have to smile at anybody. I can be miserable. You can curse all day, right? Put the mask
on. On top of a roof now? Come on.
Yeah, I'll strap in.
All right.
It just seems like our job, and I know a lot of people just fluff it off, but I think our job is one of the most difficult jobs. And a lot of people will always be like, yeah, that's bullshit. You guys just walk around. Yeah, we have to do it with a smile the whole time. That's the hardest thing, besides the physical part.
Right.
So the second stimulus is running out. Crime is going up. Hospitals are filling up. I don't think we're opening, Josh. I don't think we're opening before August. I don't even know if we'll open then.
I really want to hear somebody chime in about how how in all this chaos are we staying positive? Because I actually need suggestions.
Real estate might be the way to go. Yeah, Pat, I know a few. I'm sure you do too, because a lot of people in our industry sell real estate. They do it in their spare time during the day, and the real estate market is actually holding firm, and there's a lot of buyers. I don't understand the stock market doing well. I mean, I don't know what it's doing today, but it's hitting 25, 26,000. Back in February, it was like 29. And then in March, it sunk to like 18,000, 19,000, but it came right back. Are people smarter than me in finance thinking that we're just going to bounce out of this and make money? Because for me, I think if you're taking our industry out of the picture, or at least reducing it by 50%, and then the big events like the baseballs and the sporting events where you hoard people together and have big festivals, you take that out of the way. It's a major part of the economy, right?
Well, I think, we have to think about this in terms of permanence, because whatever kind of permanent damage we do, and so it really is all a matter of how long this lasts for. If they come out with a vaccine tomorrow and can administer it to everybody, and let's just say give January 1st as the date.
Right.
You know what? Everybody's vaccinated. Let's go. We'll be fine. The economy will be fine, and it'll bounce back probably better. We'll have a better 2021 than you've had in 35 years. However, if this goes on for years and we start to have permanent damage and permanent layoffs, and then it'll affect every market. It'll affect everything you can think of. Stock market, real estate market, everything will drop out. So it really comes down to that. How long is this going to last for?
I just lost my picture on my monitor, so I'm going to be back up in like 1 second.
All right, we see you. Just so you know.
All right, now I'm back. I know I was leaning over the monitor. Pat, can you share that articles or send it to Joey? It just about the awnings and outside. March 17th. My last day, I think, was March 14th. March 15th was a Monday, and that's when I got the call not to go in. I went through a major depression, but now I don't want to go back because it's not over. I mean, how do you keep
back? I mean, you're going to expose yourself. You're going to be exposed. You're putting yourself at risk of getting sick. You're putting people in your family of getting sick. I mean, that's what you're doing by going back to work. It's one thing to go to the store and be very careful when you're at the store. When you're at work, you're at work. I mean, you're basically, signing over all your rights.
Once you get into weeds too, you know how it is. I mean, once you get, know, two or three tables a night is fine. And if you have plenty of time, but then when you get busy, you take it because we're starving. You need the money. You start running around, you start cutting corners, and you start taking more risk on yourself. They're talking about schools. I think schools will directly relate to the economy, will directly relate to everything else that is going on in the country, because if kids can go back to school safely, then everybody else can.
I mean, I think all the information out there says the kids will be fine. You know who doesn't want to go back to school? Teachers.
The teachers.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. They're exposing themselves every day, no matter how hard you try, how many masks you wear. I mean, and then you're not just exposing you're exposing your family too, because you go home. It's just they're in the same boat we are. And I know teachers, and yeah, they don't want to go back. They're afraid. They know that they're.
So why are kids immune? They're just not getting it because they're young and they're
not getting it. It seems they're not getting it as bad. Obviously there are exceptions, but they don't seem to get as sick as other people. I mean, who this really seems to be having the most effect on are people that are unhealthy to begin with.
Right.
And kids just, have a higher resiliency, especially I'm sure like newborns probably wouldn't, but, at a certain age, Your resiliency to everything goes up. So yeah, we're not worried about the kids so much, but let's face it, they'll spread it around like you couldn't believe. I never got sick in my adult life till I had kids and they started school. Seriously, I mean, they go into school and they get every little cold, every little thing, bring it home, and that's just a microcosm for what's going to happen with this.
Well, here's the thing too, and you said it. If you're unhealthy to begin with, or have a pre-existing condition or something, you're more susceptible, obviously. But I think the people that aren't, a young, healthy 30-year-old who's in the gym every day, it's almost like when you hear somebody dies, they're like, oh, well, they had diabetes. They had type 1 diabetes. Fuck them. They deserve it. Oh, well, that guy smokes. He's a fucking smoker. What do you expect? Oh, they're obese. Fat bastard. What do you expect? They're and it's almost a bully mentality. What your kid had asthma when he or she was under 10 years old. That nerd. I remember those people huffing. They got asthma. What the fuck do you expect? That's the bully mentality I hear. Well, it's everybody. We're everybody, right? We're type 1 diabetes. We're fat. We got asthma. We got conditions. We do things to get by, and now it's like a war against the poor.
And you're right. And I mean, that is the mentality. But there's also a little more to it that we don't know. And that is what happens. What are the repercussions if you get COVID-19 and you're a little sick? It doesn't really, but 6 months later, they're starting to find out that there are complications from this that can affect people that didn't even have it that bad. And what do you think is going to happen in 2 years when we know that and be like, oh, wow, we really should have shut everything down because now 60% of the population has had it. And now, however many people from that get severely sick years later, that things we just don't know about. But we're not talking about that. We don't seem to care about that.
No, they just say
and that's got nothing to do with that's got nothing to do with being unhealthy or not.
They just say live or die. They just say, hey, nobody's dying. It's good. Hey, death tolls are down. A lot of people are saying it's sticking with them. It's sticking with them for weeks and months. And I mean, I don't know. Who the hell can you trust? Because as soon as somebody says something, somebody else goes against it. But they said there are, a guy like me, I'm 54 in August, right? When I'm 60, 6 years down the road, something happens, I'm in the hospital. This might complicate that tremendously. Yeah. So I don't want to get sick and lay up in bed. Plus the money, right? I've been starved out for 3 months. I can't afford to get sick and sit home for 2 weeks without pay again. So it comes down to leadership. It comes down to, and I don't care who you like or who you dislike in the government. It needs to be coordinated. I think it needs to be, Governor Murphy and Trump need to be on the same page.
I would hope behind the scenes, even if they have to in public, kind of chastise each other and stuff. I would hope like Fauci and Trump get together and be like, look, yeah, you can hate me, in public, but just this is what we have to do. Otherwise we're going to lose the country.
Fauci was the most trusted man in the country 3 months ago, right? I mean, he was on posters, and now Fauci comes out. I saw the guy from Texas and he goes, hey, the only thing wrong is listening to Fauci. We're going to stop listening to him. Fauci's been around since AIDS. I don't know what his political background is, but he's been working with a lot of presidents from both parties.
Exactly.
And I would hope that if you're a scientist, and most scientists are very, yes or no, there's no gray, right? They are all about the evidence.
Not opinion. I mean, that's the whole point of science. It's not opinion. It's not based on opinion.
All about the evidence. That's how they normally, I would hope that. So if a scientist or most of the scientists get together and say, this is the way, this is how we combat it. And obviously United States didn't do a good job because many other countries got their numbers way lower than us. And I know, you and I can talk about COVID forever, right? And it's just two knuckleheads talking about COVID, but it affects our job and our money and our industry. And that's where it all goes back to me, Oh,
of course.
Without a staff, there would be nothing. Life of a server. That. What's up, guys? How are you? Good to hear from you. Yeah. you and I always talk
There'd be
about
to-go food. There'd be to-go food without us. Without front of the house staff, there would be to-go food, and that's it.
Monica. I agree with you too. I mean, if there's a Republican or a Democrat doing the right thing, I hope so. I hope they work together. Whether you like in New Jersey, we have a Democratic governor.
What she's saying is ideal. Yeah, the virus isn't political. It doesn't care about that. But unfortunately, we've made it political.
Yeah, somehow it did. I mean, I'm on Team Mike, right? I'm on Team Fagan. I want to get back to work. I want to be healthy. That's what I want to do. Who can help me? In the government. I don't care. Are you governor? Are you Murphy? He's a Democrat. Are you? I don't care if you're pro anything else or if you're against anything else. I just it's desperate times. And I said it before we got on air today, Josh. Mm-hmm. Guys like me and you are going to get desperate and walk out of the house with a baseball bat and go try to rob somebody because we got to make a living. You can't starve people out. And what did you say? You said that's anarchy.
Yeah, that's anarchy. That's the anarchy. Definition of anarchy. I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, as soon as you can't feed your children, people will resort to any kind of desperate measure they need to resort to. As soon as you can't keep your family safe.
Yeah, Monica, where are you located at? Just interested. You're right, and I worry about my kids aren't in school; they're out of high school now. They're older. Yours are, and kids are good. But I know they said August. Your kids go back to school like early August,
5th.
Right?
Well, it was August 5th up till yesterday at like 6:00. We got the email saying that it's delayed a week, and that kids are going to be required to wear masks. We'll see. I'm skeptical that they'll go back even then. And don't get me wrong, I want them to go back. I think it's
right.
Very important for children to be at school and learn at school. I mean, we did the homeschooling for the last 2 months of their school year, and it's not the same. They're not learning the same. They're not getting the same degree of education.
Well, plus
they're not
you're
getting
crazy
any
too.
Socialization.
Well, plus you're crazy too, right? I mean, I had 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters, and school time's good. You go to the grocery store, you get your stuff done. When they come home, you have family time. It's hard. I mean, it's hard having little kids bouncing off the wall all day long. It adds to the chaos and the craziness. Mm-hmm. Somebody just texted me and they said, here's the thing too. Really good point. We've been out so long. We've been starved out so long. They call you back and you're sick. What are you doing? You're popping Tylenol to keep your fever down and you're going to work to earn because you have to, which spreads more and which spreads more. And then the guy next to you is sick. And then it spreads more because you can't afford to stay home.
Look, I think we missed the boat on reopening. A lot of countries closed down, and then for some reason they were able to reopen in the right way. And I'm not an expert on this stuff, neither
no, we're just talking opinion.
But they, contact trace. They did this, they did that, and they seem to be fine. They seem to have they got their number low, and they're keeping it low, and they're reopening smartly. We just didn't do that. And so you can't. If you're open, you're going to be spreading it. It's as simple as that. Yeah. If you have people out there with the attitude that, this is a free country and I can do what I want, you're going to be spreading it. And that's where we are. And too many people have it that it's you can't contain it at this point unless you do a total shutdown, and probably for, twice as long this time. And nobody wants that. I don't want that. I'd love to be able to go back to work and be able to, make the kind of money I was making before.
Yeah.
But
Monica's a restaurant owner in California. Thanks, Monica. I appreciate that coming from California. You guys have seen a big increase. Were you open and then closed, and you're trying, I can feel for the owners trying to keep my staff safe, but they need money to make too. Yeah. I mean, that's the two things in your head. Are you safe going to work? Can I pay my bills at the end of the month? What risk am I going to take? Sarah says her son is supposed to start kindergarten. How is that going to?
It's going to be a lot of work for you, Sarah.
Yeah, because what grades are your guys?
My guys are in going into 3rd and 2nd grade. I'll be honest with you. My wife does all the homeschooling, the digital learning day. I tried it once. She's up and down the stairs with both of them. She learned it's better to do one at a time than to try to do them both simultaneously on different computers. But anyway you cut it, it's not ideal.
You know, a lot of people. Go ahead. Were you going to talk more?
Not really.
A lot of people in our business, probably in Texas, in Miami-Dade, in New Jersey for sure here, were opened up. We're all called back to work. A lot of people went back to a training class for 2 or 3 hours. A lot of people went for 1 or 2 nights of work. Now they're closed up again. You know what happens? Everybody on every work chat I've seen, I'm trying to claim my unemployment this week. It's telling me no. You have to file a new claim, just like you did in March. And you have to go, I can't tell you 100% of the answers. I think there's a waiting week. This happened to my daughter. We were claiming. She went back to work for 2 weeks.
Really?
Then her boss said she doesn't work in our business. And then her boss called her and said, listen, you're on call. Didn't call her for like 3 or 4, 5, 6 weeks. I haven't been able to get it through. And I'm pretty good with, you know, the unemployment. I did it for a lot of people. Like I do understand it. She hasn't been paid in 7, 8 weeks. So a lot of people, after you're starved out and you're going back to work, and that 2-hour class that they paid you $22 for, now you have to claim that, so you get your partial. Then the following week, it says we cannot process this claim, and you're like, what? And now you got to wait for more money. Now you could be back in the unemployment line. It is a mess.
It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. Yeah.
And that frustration
and that a lot of that stems from, you know, all the fraud that has taken place as well.
Monica's from
town and follow protocol for help. Yeah. And California is very interesting. I mean, you guys are for the most part democratically run. You've done a lot of stuff right, and then at the same time, your numbers have skyrocketed the last month. Which is interesting. What part of California are you from, Monica?
It is. And I think that if you watch the news, one channel talks about Texas and Florida and one having high numbers and forgets about California because they're Democratic. The other channel just says California's not doing it right and forgets the whole political mess.
Right.
But that unemployment thing, that's scary too. And that is the Bay Area. My brother lives in San Francisco.
Okay.
Is that what?
Yep. Yeah, I got a cousin that lives out there too.
Yeah. So I told you, we Zoom every week. I've seen my brother more, on FaceTime now than in the last 20 years.
It's got to be really tough in a very populated city, close quarters and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how that kind of social distancing works. I mean, I don't know how the supermarkets work. I mean, I live out here and we have a supermarket on every other corner and we're not densely populated at all. So there, I can't imagine. It's been a long time since I lived in New York City.
Yeah. I don't know what what the problem is. If you go to New York City, you don't know what you can do. Can you go into a restaurant? I don't think so yet. Do you have to wear a mask outside? I don't know. We just mandated it in New Jersey. That's why everybody should just live under the same rules, I think, for this. And then we get through it. The other fight is, do we just not care? We don't. It's not that serious. Trump says 99% of the cases aren't that serious. All right, let's go with it. Not that serious. Let's go back to work then. Let's just open up everything 100% and go back to work. If that's, that's one or the other. You can't close half the country, half of the businesses.
They knew that from the get-go. They knew that this wasn't that, deadly to most of the population. It wasn't deadly to children. They knew all this in the beginning. Why do you think they shut down in the beginning? I mean, you saw it in Italy as soon as it was
worldwide.
Right, but in Italy, who got hit really hard. Now, China, you don't know what came out of there. You can't really believe anything. But they quarantined everybody. They tried to stop it, but it was already out. Italy then got hit hardest because I think they had a high percentage of people that had traveled from Wuhan or lived in Wuhan. Either way, hospitals started getting overwhelmed and shut down. They're like, we can't have that. And that's why you can't, live like this is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, during flu season, yeah, you're not going to be able to work. You're going to constantly be off. I don't even know if
Mhm.
if you have a common cold, so you're coughing at pre-shift a little bit, but nothing, you just, I mean, like I said, we don't call out when we're sick. We call out when we're healthy so we can go do something. When we're sick, we work. We always work. And it's expected. What are all the server memes? It's like, oh, my car's buried. I'm in the hospital, and my boss calls me up and says, "Can you pick up a shift?" I mean, there's no mercy. When the restaurant's open and busy, you need people. I think you're right. I wonder, Monica, is the customer after they go out a little bit now, especially on the East Coast, the weather's beautiful. They go out, they get a little taste of going out. They're having a little wine. They're getting a steak. Once September comes, do they all go back inside the house and they think instead of going out 3 times a week or twice a week, they're just going out once a month and they're going to their local place where they feel safe and they're really not going any further than 50 miles around their house. They're not going to go to a resort. They're not going to sleep over because the fear will come in. Then flu season, and then our business suffers again nationally. Yeah,
cohesive plan to deal with it, and we haven't had one.
That's
why we're going to be dealing with it for longer than we had needed to, and it's unforeseeable when it's going to stop.
Yeah, because it's not New York now and New Jersey. Those are the 2 hardest hits. And now it's in California, Texas, and Florida. So now it should come up like a storm, right? It's got us surrounded. And we travel. We travel, we drive, we cross borders, we take airplanes, we go to restaurants, we go to hotels, and pass it, and pass it, and pass it.
And again, what's going to happen when the stimulus runs out, when the $600 a week? I mean, I talked to some of my friends locally about it, obviously all in the industry. And I mean, it's almost like death. You don't really want to bring it up. It's like a subject you don't really want to touch. You don't want to have to think about it yet. It's coming. It's here. I think they'll probably do something, hopefully in a timely fashion, to address it. I can tell you this: you're probably not getting your $600 federal unemployment every week.
Well, let me. Restaurant pop-ups are a good idea. They were pretty cool, and they're coming on strong now. That might be a good idea. I want to, Shelly, how are you? Give me 1 second. I go back to you. Second stimulus. Yesterday there was a lot of talk about this, and I think it's believable that this is a conversation. Under 40,000, you'll get a stimulus check if you earn under 40,000 a year. Couples, I think was 75 or 80,000. You'll get that stimulus check. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's another 1,200, if it's going to be more or less. Mitch, the Senate Republicans, they're the leaders, Mitch McConnell. And I saw this reported on a couple different areas. So it wasn't like, some obscure paper. They were saying that under $40,000 a year are getting hit the hardest. They need the help. The stimulus check will go out to them. And then I saw a slew of people on different Facebook groups. Oh, well, in our industry, I claimed my tips last year. And then other people would say, I'm glad I didn't claim. I didn't claim nothing. I made 15, and then they were like, well, you shouldn't do that. That's against the law. It's everybody is worried about, we're going against each other because you might make 42,000 and I made 38,000. And now I'm your enemy for $1,200.
Do you remember
desperation?
My analogy when the restaurant gets slow, you're like in a fish tank where the water just keeps slowly going down. We're all friends. We're all friends when the water's nice and high. Everybody's enjoying themselves swimming around. But when we're down to very low water, very low oxygen, now I have to eat you. I'm sorry. It's just the way
absolutely.
It is.
Right. Let me see. Hey, Shelly. Open at 30% in Kentucky for inside dining. My last work week was March 14th. I was the highest paid hourly server due to running the front and closing daily, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure bringing in back, helping to save on labor. The last time I talked to them was a month ago. Have no plans on bringing me back anytime soon, which scares me as the extra 600 ends in about 2 or 3 weeks. I've been volunteering in my community. Well, that's nice of you. During this time, which helps me to stay positive. That's awesome.
There you go. She brought something positive in there. I love it.
You know what? I mean, in a time like this, in a time like this where it's all me, my money, my house, my worries, if you're giving to somebody else, I got to applaud you, Shelley. That's a tough thing to do because sometimes you don't even feel like you just want to eat pizza and stay in and watch Netflix because it's like, what's the use? When I work out, you still working out, getting a few workouts in a week, Josh?
Yeah, I built a gym in my house before all this started. It was just, it had nothing to do
So
with
you're
this.
good.
It's just something I did.
Are you still
Yeah, yeah.
motivated? Do you still equally as motivated?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been. I'm at this age, at my age, it's always 2-3 days a week is fine. Just keep maintain.
Yeah.
Don't become unhealthy.
I just
That's the
find
way I've
it
always been.
I just find it a little harder some days. I have a schedule to work out a little bit, and then I just think,
What's the
along
point?
with a lot of things, what's the point? And I think that goes on to a lot of things.
Well, I think,
what's the
look, there
point?
are a couple of things that are the point. Besides vanity, we'll set that one
Yeah.
aside.
Well,
You
that's
want to
why
keep
everybody does it.
you want to keep yourself healthy, and also, look, you're not walking around the restaurant like you usually do, walking that 5 miles a night. Doesn't hurt you to get out there and run 3 miles a day. I would do it.
Pat, with the no contracts with the city, that's Atlantic City is mostly, at least in the casinos, is mostly union. Ocean does not have a contract. From what I've heard from the union, they're looking at Caesars and Borgata to sign first, and then everybody else sign after because they're the two biggest properties. So nobody has a contract right now. I don't think union employees have benefits right now. I don't. I lost mine April 30th. So. But
So what are you doing? Are you doing like Cobra or something?
On April 30th, I said, and I was talking to Randy. Randy's my boss by GM, but Josh knows him pretty well. I said, no, I'm not gonna do it. It's very expensive. And I figured we'd be back to work by June, Josh. I didn't know. I mean, and now in July, are we really looking at it saying like this year I'm not going back to work? I'm going to live on federal assistance for the rest of the year. I mean, that's a strange way to think. So it's right. I'm on federal assistance. I mean, basically, whether it's
that's the whole point
or
of why we're doing this. I don't know what to think. I don't know where we're going. It's scary. I had my health insurance actually paid for. Family of 4. I think we paid like $12.50 a month, and it wasn't particularly good. I didn't. We're not union here down in Georgia. I didn't qualify, believe it or not, for what work offered because you have to work more than 30 hours a week. And I think I averaged like 29 point something. So, I basically had my own benefits. And you could work 5 days a week and still only work 29 hours sometimes. You know how it goes. So either way, we dropped it when we were out of work. I mean, that was just one of the expenses. I looked at all the things I could do because I didn't know how long this was going to last. To I still want to pay my mortgage, pay my car, pay the cable and phone bills and stuff like that. Still got to buy food at $1,500 a month for a family of 4. But I didn't have to pay for parking at work anymore, so that was $40 I saved. So. We dropped health insurance.
Yeah, well, I got a ACL. You had ACL issues, and I can walk fine, and you would probably never notice it. But if I ran a mile today, I would be in severe pain for like the next 3 weeks. So I can't run. And I was thinking in March, it'd be a perfect time. I'll take a month off or something. Well, I couldn't go because you can't go to the hospital for an ACL. And then I ran out. So it's like, I feel a lot of people are in a position where, health isn't your priority. You're thinking about getting sick, but also the maintenance. What do you call that? Your health, just going to your checkups, just going to make sure, small things. It's not important. The list is different now. The priority list is much different than it was 4 months ago. Right.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's actually the second time that I've dropped health insurance. Typically, I wait till like March. My whole family gets our checkups, make sure, the heart rate's great and everything and all that stuff. And then it's like, well, you know what? We don't need it. And I just save that money. I save $1,000 a month then. And this way, when I have, if a kid breaks an arm or something like that, it's $10,000. It's, okay, here you go. I've got this money set aside for health costs.
I know there's a lot of debate about Obamacare. I don't know much about it, but a few years ago, I was at a different job and I looked into it, and it was expensive.
It's not cheap. That's we get it on the marketplace. It's called.
Right. And then I couldn't really afford to go to the doctors because my plan, it was like $250 for a specialist. And it was like, so if I go get a knee checked out this week and a shoulder next week, I'm into it a nickel this month. So, I mean, affordable healthcare. You're right, Monica. It is crazy.
So listen to this. Listen to this story.
We can't afford to stay healthy.
I take my kid in. This was a year ago. I take him in for he had a sore throat. Wound up having a strep test. We had insurance. This was the $1,200 insurance that I've since dropped.
Right.
So $1,200 a month, which I think that's a lot of money. I don't think that's cheap. But it wasn't particularly good coverage. I think the good coverage was like $1,750 a month for a family of four.
Right.
So it was like $1,250 a month. I'm paying this. I get there and my copay was like $240. And then on top of that, because he got a strep test, which came back positive, it was like the test itself was like another $250. And I had asked my doctor, I'm like, what would this have cost me if I just came in and paid cash? And he goes, oh, we would have charged you $80 for the visit and $60 for the test. I'm like, and this is how screwed up the system is. So I'm paying $1,250 a month. And then on top of that, I've got to pay another, $490 for something that would have cost me $140. I mean, where's the logic there? That's why I dropped it.
Healthcare for me, and I got it through work. So it was about half of what you were paying. It was about $600. Me and my daughter were on it. Just one daughter is young enough to claim. It's my second biggest bill of the month next to the house payment, right? It's more than my car payment. It's more than anything else. And I can't afford to use it because if I do go back and go to my doctor and get referred and then go check something else out and then get an MRI and then get an X-ray and then say, now I would like the procedure. I can't afford that. I can't afford all those payments along the way. So all I can really do is be compliant. So if I get hit by a car and I go to the hospital, they can't say this deadbeat has no insurance. The state's got to pick up his bill. All I can do is, and then I can't pay the 20% on a monster, an operation where you're 20%.
And talking about bringing back to our industry and let's say before COVID, I mean, it would often happen. I mean, you get your service coming in, like you said, you take whatever medication you can take to make the sniffles so it doesn't like drip out of your nose as you're talking to people, so you don't sound that nasally. And you go to work because you can't afford to take off because taking off is, that $300 that night you're not making. And most servers I work with don't have health coverage because they don't qualify to get it through work. Yeah. Like I said, you're in your own little bubble in Atlantic City, not all the time, but if you have that, casino job where you're union, but let's face it, most serving jobs are not union.
Union insurance is tremendous. It was great. Right. I had it the whole time when my kids were growing up. It's basically very inexpensive and very easy to use. A lot of cities, though, when you get out of Atlantic City, right, it's a bubble. If you're in New York, you're in Philadelphia, you're in Chicago, you can, if you're good, right, you got a resume and you can speak well, you can go down the street and make about the same income that you were making up the street. In Atlantic City, you can't. If you're in a good room, that's done. You're done. You can't equal that money with seniority. You know how it works down here. Right. So the city's not large enough to support everybody. But so a lot of people in the big cities, they don't have the insurance because they bounce around. Unless it's a super restaurant like Peter Luger's, right, where guys have been there for 25 years. You don't see that a lot in other restaurants except a few lifers. What do you call the guys that? What do you call the In-N-Out waiters, Josh? Not like me and you that are like for passing through guys or so. I don't know. You got a name for?
Oh yeah.
Name for the kids coming through.
Tourists.
Oh, the tourists.
Tourists.
You call the kids.
Yeah,
the
lifers
tourists.
And tourists. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. And charity care is a big word. Like we all have a lot of pride, and you go, you get a big procedure, and then you got to walk down that lonely hallway and go into your office and apply for charity care because you're a charity. Although
Because
you've
the
been
bill, the
working the
bills.
entire
I have you ever looked at a hospital bill? What I mean, but they're like $40,000 for this or for that. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it is a whole other discussion, and it is truly,
Right.
I think when whoever's running for office and they say healthcare for everybody, man, it would be something that would be such a relief to me to know that my kids would have healthcare and I would have healthcare and that we can afford it and everybody can go to the doctor when there's a problem.
I wish we had my friend Mark come on the show. He'll try to get on next week or next show.
Okay.
Because his background's economy. He's an economist. He was in
Love to. Yeah,
finance.
I mean,
It's an interesting thought. But I'd be interesting to hear from somebody that has had COVID, because I remember when this all first came out. They said if you have COVID, where the government's going to cover everything. I'd like to see how that's going for people that don't have health insurance, that have gone into the hospital, have gotten COVID, and what kind of bills are they getting? Is the government actually picking up that tab? What's going on with that?
a buddy of mine in Florida right now, younger guy, waiter,
Mm-hmm.
just got it. And I heard this through friends. I didn't hear this directly from him. And is in the hospital, fluid in the lungs, and in severe pain. And he's a much younger guy than me, and he's a big dude, a big healthy guy. So it put it a little bit in perspective that now I don't know his health background, but again, as soon as I find something out, then I can shit on him and be like, oh, well, that's his fault. He drinks too much or whatever, right? That's what everybody says. I know we're a waiter show, but everything intertwines. And in the beginning,
we're not working right now. I wish we could be talking about better stuff.
I know. I mean, it would be fun to be talking about, wine or sales or the tourist kids that you beat up and you make them do all your side work for $10 or something like that. That's fun. It's fun to complain about, terrible people. But I just like having conversations. We used to do that pre-shift every day over a coffee, right? We'd sit down and have a cappuccino. So that's where this came from. I appreciate. Hey, do you know Janine, Josh?
Yeah, I know Janine. How are you, honey? It's good to hear from you. It's going away at the end of
the month.
Yeah, $1,200 a month. I know. That's my story. $1,200 a month. And how are you going to pay? How are you going to pay that when you're not making money? That's why we dropped it.
How can you pay? Yeah, that was the thing that me and you talk about off air, is the desperation, the 3 weeks down the road, the $600. You either put us back to work and open up the whole goddamn country 100% and we go to work, or you pay us. One way or another, we need to have income. You need to make a weekly income.
And it's in everybody's interest that we get paid. I don't care what you say. It's in every politician's interest because, like I said, we're going to re-inject that back into the economy. Whereas if you just take it out, just say they stop the $600. For you, that's $600 a week. For my wife and I, that's $1,200 a week. That's all going back into the economy, and that times that by a few million, tens of millions of people that are out of work, and you're taking that right out of the economy. That's going to totally collapse the economy. They don't want that to happen before an election. I should hope they don't want that to happen at any time, but self-servingly, they don't want that to happen before they're up on the ballot. So my hopes is that they'll pass something and we'll get something. It might not be the $600 a week, but we'll get something. I just hope they don't wait too long doing it.
I noticed last week, there were a lot of fireworks because no city put fireworks on because they didn't want the public to gather. And everybody is like, oh, I guess I know what my neighbor did with the stimulus check. Yeah, stupid. You got a stimulus check too, but you spend it wisely. It's this war against they got Joe Dirt living next door and the guy's getting $600 a week and you're holding it against him. I told you, my neighbor.
You're being kind. You're being kind. I think it really comes down to whatever's going on politically. It comes down to more of a racial thing than that. They're not worried about Joe Dirt.
Yeah, they're.
I don't want to get into that, but hey, you know what I'm saying.
Definitely. Well, everybody, like I said, I'm going to go on public assistance. Basically, that's what if I'm getting stimulus packages and I'm getting unemployment, I'm on public assistance. Joey, can't wait to get back to work and complain. That's all I want to do. I want my shitty job back. Right?
Normalcy, yeah.
All we want is our lousy job back. I want to
Right.
fight with my managers. I want to complain about other servers
Yeah,
getting more covers than me.
Those campers at midnight. Yeah, you know what I mean? And you're
I
just
want to
sitting there
stay
waiting.
late and complain. I want to, I want to talk about
We're
all
all
that.
on that boat. Absolutely.
Had a good time talking with you this week, Josh. Always good.
Good time, Mike. Always.
Right, guys. Monica, you're if you ever want to message me on the side and come on the show and talk, love to have you on. You're a restaurant owner, be a good perspective from California. Anybody else is always welcome to come on. Everybody else have a good day, and as always, we appreciate you commenting in and talking.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks, Josh.
Mike, take care.
All right.